The watch was gold, more appropriate for a gentleman than a fur trader. But in 1880, it was a fur trader who sold the watch to Edward Guizot, a merchant with the Hudson's Bay Company in Manitoba, Canada. The fur trader told him that it had belonged to an American soldier. But what soldier? And why did a fur trader have it in Canada? Guizot was curious and started to look for answers. The serial number and manufacturer provided the first clues. Guizot wrote a letter to the watchmaker in Liverpool, England, and asked for information. All the company could tell him was it was one of two timepieces purchased in 1850 by a Mr. Crittenden, who lived in America. What Guizot wasn't told is that the Crittendens were a very prominent American family from Kentucky. John Jordan Crittenden was Kentucky's 17th governor, a U.S. senator, and a member of the U.S. House of Representatives. He also served with distinction during the War of 1812. Thomas, his son, continued the family's proud legacy. He was career military, serving in the Mexican-American War and with the United States Army in the Civil War, commanding troops at some of the war's most intense battles: Shiloh, Stones River, Cold Harbor. But in 1850, Thomas was serving on a different kind of front. He was U.S. consul at Liverpool, England, and while there, he purchased two watches. In 1880, as Guizot sought the owner of the watch he bought from the fur trader, unbeknownst to him, Thomas Crittenden was trying to find that same watch, one of those he had purchased in England 30 years earlier. He had given it to his son, John Jordan Crittenden III. John wanted to follow in his family's military footsteps, but he found it difficult. In 1873, he enrolled in the U.S. Military Academy, but was dismissed due to academic failure. Still, he was determined to serve his country, and his father's connections helped him do so. In 1876, Thomas's influence secured John a temporary assignment as a second lieutenant with the U.S. 7th Cavalry. At the time, the 7th Cavalry was under the command of a flamboyant military icon who has a surprising Kentucky connection. The U.S. Army stationed this officer to Hardin County, Kentucky, between 1871 and 1873 to suppress the Ku Klux Klan. This Kentucky Historical Society marker identifies this house as the place the general lived during his deployment there. The name of this military leader? General George Armstrong Custer. In June of 1876, John Jordan Crittenden III rode under the command of General Custer into the Battle of Little Bighorn, carrying the watch his father had given him. It was there that Custer, Crittenden, and 259 other U.S. soldiers died in battle against the Sioux and Cheyenne nations. A story passed down with the watch tells how a Sioux warrior took it from John's body. A fur trader next got the watch and carried it to Canada, where it ended up in the hands of the merchant on a mission. Armed with two pieces of information, that the watch had belonged to a U.S. soldier and that someone named Crittenden had purchased it, Guizot went straight to the top for help. He wrote to William T. Sherman, commanding general for all U.S. soldiers, asking if he knew anyone named Crittenden and proposing to return the watch. Sherman's aide put Guizot in touch with Thomas Crittenden, who was still in the Army. The mystery was solved. Time had not diminished the Crittendens' grief over the death of their only child. After Guizot returned John's watch, Thomas wrote to him, "Mrs. Crittenden and I, the father and mother of the late Lieutenant John J. Crittenden, tender you our heartfelt thanks for tracing the history of our late son's watch and for restoring to us a relic of inexpressible value, though in itself of little worth." Today, after a journey of more than 7,000 miles and 141 years, the Crittenden Watch, symbol of a young life ended too soon, a relic from one of the most iconic military battles in American history, and the priceless heirloom of a celebrated Kentucky family, is on display at the Kentucky Historical Society.